This is Sexy Funny Raw, where we chat all about the world of sex, from dating and relationships all the way to the adult industry itself. I'm Silvia Saige, and this is my Pornspective, answering all the questions you weren't even brave enough to ask Google. Get ready, because Sexy Funny Raw starts now.
Oh, welcome back, you guys, to another episode of Sexy Funny Raw. I am your host, Silvia Saige. Joined with me in studio, as always, is my co-host, Dr. Eddie, giving us his public health perspective. And you guys, we are so very happy to welcome back the adorably handsome male performer, Adam Ramzi.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
Of course. You guys, I am so very excited about this episode because I know we've talked about it before. I always address anal and things of that nature, but I feel like we have a true expert here on in our panel today because Adam, you are an adult performer and you are a verse performer.
I sure am.
So you are very familiar with the butthole.
I love the butthole.
Yeah, and preparation and what are the best things to do and maybe some of the things to avoid.
Yes.
So kind of give us just a little run through of what your preparation might be. And I mean, mine starts the day before. So if yours starts the day before also, give us some timeline of what you're going into.
Okay. This comes up a lot on my podcast as well because, butt sex is a big part of the gay adult male experience.
And should be heterosexually.
It should.
Or like outside the adult film experience.
Yeah.
Like butt sex is a transformative, beautiful thing.
It is.
It's true. Yeah. I say all the time, like to people who've started getting fucked, wow, you're a better person now.
Oh, yeah.
Well done.
It takes a real man to take a dick.
Yeah,
Truly.
Honestly. Or a real woman. Just saying.
Fair enough.
Do you like butt sex?
I love it. It was one of my number one things in the industry when I got in, and I don't do as much of it as I would love to, but I love it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't spoken to a lot of women who about butt sex to know if they enjoy it.
Do you call it butt sex?
Yes.
You don't just call it sex?
Oh.
Or anal, or like butt sex seems like a...
It's very funny. It's cheeky.
It's cheeky.
Purposely so. Yes, I call it butt sex, and I love it. But I know that I know a lot of guys who have very different prep methods.
Yeah.
And some people take a really long time. They'll be in the bathroom for a good 45 minutes to an hour.
Yes, I've been on set with those people.
Yeah, yes, it can be frustrating, especially when you're waiting.
Yes.
I've had hookups sometimes. We'll be like, oh, I'm coming from the gym, so do you mind if I just use your bathroom?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, cool. And I'll be like waiting with a boner and be like, wow, they're still in there.
No.
Okay, well, just be
Well,
patient.
the bulb only goes so far if you're using a bulb.
I understand that. And I mean, for those listening, if you don't know what Dr. Eddie's talking about, there's like a bulb where it's like you either do like a fleet enema or like a rubber bulb that's like a douche.
Reusable.
Yes, reusable. There's also a shower shot, which is a shower attachment hose that has a little, wand at the end.
I
You
have
got a
one.
spigot? Do spigot? Yes.
I have one, but I'm terrified of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't used it.
Yeah, no, it works great. The thing is, it just feels a little weird. I mean, like, if you've ever gotten a colonic.
I have, yeah.
And I don't love those.
I don't either.
Yeah, but these work fine. If you have good drainage and water pressure, you can do that. You can evacuate.
That's a good point. Drainage.
You can evacuate in the shower. If you don't, I would recommend going between the shower and the toilet.
I was going to say, would you not suggest that they maybe do the first, because when I cleanse, I use enemas, and I use usually 3 of them as my special rinse. I know 3 is
3 at
clean.
once.
Well, 3 like one right after another.
Oh,
and I'm clean.
Like use it, evacuate, use it, evacuate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do that when I'm like, I have a go bag in my car. which has like a douche, lube.
Talked about go bags before.
Yeah. It's got a douche, like a fleet enema, some lube, and it's got 2 little bottles of liquid Cialis and liquid Viagra.
Oh,
because you
okay.
just never know.
Yeah.
But I tend to like do the same thing you do.
Go there first on the toilet and then maybe go to the shower.
Well, so I will only use the toilet if I'm using an enema or a bulb.
Okay.
I tend to prefer the Fleet enemas. I just feel like you can get more out of them than a rubber bulb.
Yeah.
But in the shower, when you're doing a shower shot, then I'm depending on the shower and the drainage. Like I'm less scared of just going in the. Yeah, it just depends. It also depends on what you got going in there. If like you haven't gone in 2 days, then like maybe go to the toilet.
But that's why I'm asking. Like, do you start the day before to prepare? Because I definitely am worried about what I'm eating the night before. I'm worried about
salad is actually not a good thing.
No,
right.
You want
I mean, I hear this from a lot of guys too, who are like if they know they're gonna bottom at night, they will like not eat all day. And I've never been like that. I just but I guess I understand why too. You don't necessarily want food sloshing around your insides.
There's thousands of starving bottoms in that.
Yes, there are.
All the time, every day.
Every day.
Help a starving bottom in need.
Just put a dick in them. That's all they really need.
I think a lot of it has to do with just knowing your body.
Yeah.
And what if you don't mind my segueing a little bit, the thing that a lot of my podcast listeners probably have heard way too much about as I've gotten older, my butthole's gotten a little moodier.
Okay.
I've named her Hemi Lovato. And she comes around every once in a while.
Okay.
And I'm sick of it.
Okay.
So I am potentially going to get surgery this September.
Oh.
I'm going to call it refurbishing my butthole.
Okay. What kind of surgery is this?
I think it's called a hemorrhoidectomy. Because, I think, our skin changes as we get older.
Yeah.
And it was something I never dealt with growing up or in my 20s or even in my 30s. And then all of a sudden, in my later 30s, as I kind of became more on the top side of the perspective.
Okay.
You can't do things like get spit fucked anymore. You can't do things like haphazardly jam an enema back there.
Like, talk about lube all the time.
So yes, I'm realizing now that lube is really, really important.
Your best friend.
It should be in every go bag.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and the thing is, I'm learning now also that like not everybody has dealt with a hemorrhoid before. So when there are sometimes guys who are like try and just spit and jam it in there, and if you're like no, if you stop them, they'll get frustrated. They'll be like no, just don't worry about it. It'll be fine. I'm like no, excuse me, excuse me.
Also depends on what kind of hemorrhoid. There's internal and external.
Oh, okay.
So it could be on the sphincter.
Okay.
And so that creates pain often. Internal hemorrhoids you don't see per se, but
you feel.
You can feel if something is inside, and sometimes you'll see blood in your stool. And not to get all.
Yeah.
But so there's two different types, and so it sounds like it's a external.
I've had a little bit of both. There was
common.
Sucks.
And if you lift weights and there's a lot of variables where if you're doing anything extreme, maybe taking dick, perhaps. I don't know.
Lifting weights can cause hemorrhoids?
It depends on if you're lifting heavy weights for sure.
Yeah.
I have never known that.
If you're squatting a lot of weight and just, it's like pushing, do you know what I mean? If you push too hard, that's another thing. Like that like even something as silly, and I mean this might be TMI, but we are talking about anal prep, so we might as well keep going. But like as something as silly as just like if you think you've got a fart but it's not quite there, and so you're just like gonna try and push it out, don't do it. Let it come on its own. Let it come on its own.
Interesting.
Like child's pose. There's a couple of yoga poses.
Oh yes, teach me these, please.
There's a couple of very specific yoga positions that actually help all of that.
Interesting.
It becomes a problem because women aren't allowed to fart.
Right.
Which is ridiculous and not realistic.
Yeah.
And then even in dating, men often don't do that either, depending.
Yeah.
But yoga poses also help. I would also encourage those same yoga poses if you're doing solo masturbation, anal masturbation, all of those things as prep before anal.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of those are like important components of sex, because you can't just jam a 9-inch cock in there.
Right.
Right?
Well, you shouldn't. Without the lube, at the very, very least.
It's not even a question.
But I will say, now neither one of you have vaginas to know the contrast, but I will say I can get more into my ass than I can into my vagina, dick size wise. Absolutely.
How do you mean? Like in terms of just
size, girth wise. Like I feel like my vagina can only handle so much, and maybe not. Maybe I mean they also do. Vaginas are childbirthing, but at that point, like your hips and everything else are spreading, but I just the vagina feels very constricting, and I've often, especially in DP scenes, the guys will come up and they're like, "Oh, who do you want in your vagina?" And I always pick the smaller one for my vagina and the bigger dick for my butt.
Wow.
Yeah, because it just can handle more. I just feel like it stretches more and it's just more accepting.
That is fascinating.
Does the does it hurt getting fucked in the vagina by a big dick?
Yes. Yes, because it definitely feels like it's like stretching everything and pulling everything in there. And it's definitely not comfortable. But I don't work with a lot of the larger men.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the beginning, we talked about this earlier, which I absolutely hate, but I don't want to touch on it a lot, but like the racial aspect of a lot of people are like, wouldn't put, black men on their yes list for a long time. But my no list wasn't necessarily about color, it was about size.
Yeah.
Now,
interesting.
there is one man in our industry who is specifically known for this astronomically large
What's
penis.
his name? Can we talk about him?
Dread is his name, and I feel like everyone knows Dread and knows his giant, dreadful penis. But I just have him on my no list because I physically don't want to do that to my body. And I've heard other females who have shot with him were like, oh, I have to take off, 48 hours afterwards just to like let my body regroup. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to physically put myself through that kind of pain.
Could you then, on a similar topic, it would be okay to do that anally without any...
I don't even know if I could take him anal because I just wonder. But I don't know. I've taken some really big anal.
Did you prep for it? Like,
yes.
You did.
I will prep for really big. If I know they're over 8 inches, 8 inches or less, I can you can just throw that in there. It's gonna be fine. But anything larger, I'll throw in a very large butt plug that morning, and I'll kind of just sit with a butt plug in. I don't necessarily dildo my ass because I just don't love dildos in general. But
Same.
I will sit with the biggest butt plug I can find.
So in this case, we're talking about prep in terms of not necessarily cleaning out, but like in terms of like getting
all
ready
of
to
it,
take the dick. See, maybe that's something I need to adopt. Is because I'm not.
You don't
very
do anything.
good at that. I'm more about just like I get like cleaning out and doing that stuff. But I think maybe it's time to like get a butt plug and like get it nice and lubed up and stretch a little bit, because I actually I took a nice break from receptive anal sex because of Hemi. She went away finally, and last night I took 4. I had a little group moment.
Look at you!
And I took
She's
4.
back.
I feel so much better. And there was like the moment where it was like, okay, like it was like the first person was like getting in there, and like I could feel myself being like, oh God, oh no, I might have screwed this up. But then once I had like loosened up and stretched, like then I was fine, and I was so relieved.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. I don't know if this sounds horrible or silly and stupid, but like it's really hard to like be denied something that you want, especially because of your body.
Love and something that you've enjoyed.
Yeah, of course.
I'm such a baby when my body fails me. I don't know what I'm going to do if I'm an old man with like a serious disease. I'm going to be such a wuss.
I think that all the time, even like because my knees are starting to go out, and I'm like, what is going to happen if I can't run or do my
stirrups?
Oh, it's so scary. Yeah, it's little stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we're not encouraging people to stop having sex, because as we get older, we want people to have sex. You just have to make adjustments as we age.
Tell us why,
absolutely.
Dr. Eddie.
Well, all of our body parts are going to be different as we age.
Yes.
Right? Women are not going to be as wet, perhaps. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or men might have less feeling in certain areas. Or if the prostate becomes an issue potentially as we get older, which is quite common for most men, if it gets enlarged, if there's any problems there, all of those things are going to impact receptive anal sex. And so being as healthy as you can, but adjusting to the limitations, there's nothing wrong with adjusting to limitations as we age, because the intention is to have like pleasurable enjoyment and fulfillment and all of those things. And instead of saying, no more, I'm not going to do this anymore, perhaps we just need to adjust, because people are still having sex well into old age.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But adjustments need to be made if your hips don't work the same way,
Right.
and stuff like that, or if your asshole works the different way.
Yeah. And no matter how old you are, your mental game is still going to benefit from sexuality,
Yes.
like, in general. Here's a question. I know we're talking about anal preparation, but has there ever been a time where you've just dove in without any preparation?
Yes.
Same.
Yeah, I have, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I have, as I've gotten older, I know what I want, and I know my body, and I know how I know that I would obviously prefer for things to be
clean.
Okay and clean, but like sometimes they aren't.
Of course.
I've learned that when I'm camping, I care way less. Camping sex is different. Camping sex, like, you're kind of out in Mother Nature anyway, and everything, all the smells are very earthy anyway, and like sometimes, like, if you're just not quite ready. I was telling the story today of like one of the most amazing. I go on this yearly gay camping trip.
Nice.
And like, everyone's having sex whenever they can. But sometimes we don't have time for prep. And there was like one time when I went to like the other side of the campground just to like explore, met somebody up there, and within 20 minutes of like a cute little flirty conversation, he was like, "Do you want to come back to my tent?" And I said, "Of course." And I kind of went over there, and things started going, and before I knew it, I was inside him, and it was amazing. We had this really beautiful tent sex, the birds chirping outside, the whole thing. I finished, he finished, and we like collapsed onto each other. I was on my back, and he did the most brilliant thing. He was like, "Okay, so are you ready? We're going to go outside." And I said, "Sure." And he was like, "Okay, before you get up, I'm going to ask you to do something. Close your eyes until I tell you."
Aww.
And I said, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, ready? Close your eyes. Don't open them until I tell you." And he got up and he's like, "Okay." And he grabbed a towel and some baby wipes and he was just like wiping me off. And he was like, almost there. Don't worry about it.
That's
Nothing
cute.
to see here. Okay, open your eyes." And I like got up and I have no idea if we were clean or not.
Oh,
but it didn't matter.
That's cute.
And I was like, I'm stealing that. That's genius.
Because I wonder that all the time with gay relationships, is because in straight sex we never have to like, oh, hold on 1 second, let me go spend 20 to 40 minutes in the bathroom and I'll be right back out. It's pretty like instant sex is going on. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is you either have a hard on you have to wait on, or like, does the mood die in between there? Because I've certainly gone into anal. I mean, usually I'm drunk, but, like anal, but no preparation, and they're like, do you want to do it in the butt? I'm like, sure. Like, I don't give a shit. These are your sheets, But
have you had occasional messes?
Of course.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, but you know where you're going. There's been times even when I've cleaned.
Yeah.
And I've cleaned very properly.
Yes.
But because I'm on a porn set and we're having sex for an extremely long amount of time, there is a lot of lube and it's a lot of different positioning.
Yeah.
And if if the very last position is me on top and now it's just, gravity, there can definitely be, as soon as he pulls out, I'm like, oh Lord, gravity itself is just going to pull everything out on top of him. So even with cleanness, there's still accidents that can happen, and you just have to know that this is the area you're playing in,
Well, I hope that a lot of the times the people you've been with when that happens, whether on or off set, have been kind.
Yes.
Because I think that's a lot of the times what happens. Like I have one friend who will take like 2 hours to prep. And when I asked him why do you do that to yourself? And he said it's because he had a partner that made him feel so horrible when there were messes that he's carried that shame with him for years.
Aww.
And that's such a horrible,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, grow up, people. Like, if you're going to play in the butt, you might deal with some mud.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I think it depends on what we're cleaning, what positions we're using when we're cleaning, right? Because there's the rectum, which is typically where we're going. But if we're downward facing dog while we're doing an enema, we're also getting into the lower intestines, which also creates a whole other area that needs more cleaning and more prep.
Well, then what do you suggest? What is the best?
Well, so it really depends on what the intention is. It depends on a bunch of things, because gravity is going to work,
of course,
at some point or another.
Yeah.
And so if you're not doing the lower intestines, which is a whole other game when you're doing that, most people are doing the rectum because the penis isn't going further than like the rectum. However, if you're on top all the time, the large intestine is also going to be pretty important. So it depends on what positioning. It depends on all those things. Because if you're doing downward dog, for example, and that's how you're cleaning out in the shower or the bathtub, you're actually, depending on how long you're waiting, a lot of that is going to flush into your large intestines, not just your rectum. And so if you're doing it like, let's say, standing up, you're only doing the rectum. But if you're doing downward facing dog, like the position that you would do a regular enema in, that the box tells you to do it in, you're actually doing the large.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're talking like this is a normal thing. Who cleans out in downward dog?
That's what the box tells you on the enema.
Like in a triangle?
Yeah, that's what
Correct.
the box says.
What?
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of guys are.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't. but-
It creates, from what I understand, it just creates an extra long time. So I would question for the people that you're saying that they're taking a really long time, perhaps it's positioning and stuff like that. Is it necessary? It depends.
Well, and can't you over clean also? Can't you?
Well, there are studies that say if you're doing it very, very often,
Okay.
you're actually changing the chemistry of areas.
The
by flushing it out.
microbiome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that could potentially create its own problems. And certainly for women with vaginal hygiene, we've discussed it many times before. Douching is horrible and all
Right.
of those things because you're changing the pH. The same thing kind of applies because
Interesting.
you're cleaning out a lot of the things that should be in there by flushing it out with water or whatever.
Then why do they suggest colonoscopy? Not colonoscopy. What's the one where they clean you out? Is that a colonoscopy?
Colonic?
Colonic. That's the one I want. Yeah, colonic. Why do they suggest those then?
Well, and so it's a trend. It's a couple
Yeah.
of things,
Oh.
right? So
I don't feel like it happens as much. Colonics are not as popular as they
they're
were
not
like
as popular
20
as they
years
used to,
ago.
but they were for a very long time.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially for like our age group, maybe. And so it was a trend.
Okay.
Like, you can be a few pounds lighter because you're actually
Got you.
holding some in there. Sure, all of those things are going to be variables.
Okay.
You might feel less bloated, like you might look and feel better because of it. So, but what it's actually doing to you, like, sure, you're cleaned out. Okay, but your next meal is going to do the same thing to you again. So
Right.
their utility is
The
probably
two
not.
times I've done a colonic, and this was like 15 years apart.
Right.
Both times I was like, I feel like this person just took a shit for me for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That was not
Yeah.
fun.
Just-
Like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Shot you up and cleaned you out. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask all my friends what position their body is in when they douche.
Yeah.
I'm like my mind is blown.
Yeah.
I had no idea that
Yeah.
downward dog was like a normal douching position.
Yeah.
When I was doing field work with sex workers in New Orleans, and so these were street workers, and so that was one of the questions because I was just hanging out with them on street corners for months, and so like I had to go to campus in the daytime, and so I was out until 5 a.m. doing research because that's the way research works.
Research.
And so, but I was always curious as to like, how are you prepping for this?
Yeah.
Because some of the guys were straight guys and they couldn't get an erection, so they were receptive partners.
Okay.
Right? And so there's like all these other variables that kind of come into play there.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you get ready? And they're like, oh, well, you can go in the certain bathrooms, have space, and depends on your positioning. And I was like, what do you mean your positioning? They're like, well, you really want to make sure that you're cleaned out. So you really want to face down and you want to hold it for more than 30 seconds. The longer you hold it, the deeper it gets. And so
Are you supposed to hold it in there?
gravity wise, it does work that way. So if you go in downward dog and you put a lot of fluid into you, it's going to go deeper, just
Yeah.
the way it works.
Yeah.
And so the longer you wait, the more it gets into your large intestine.
Okay.
At which point you're flushing out whatever's
More.
in the bottom of your large intestine.
I cannot believe this. I'm 41 years old, you guys. I did not know this.
and if you look
ever.
at the end of the box, that's what it tells you to
It
do. I think it
does,
tells you to hold it for 20 seconds. I'm not sure.
I know this because I actually did it because I had never enemaed before. I mean, all of my anal sex previous to the adult industry was all non-clean. So getting into the industry was my first time enemaing.
Let's say
Yeah.
natural.
Is that what I
Instead of
say?
not clean,
Okay,
let's say
sorry.
natural.
Not clean, natural, whatever we're going to use. So I had never done that. So I was reading the box and I'm down there doing exactly what the box told me to do. And then
Yeah.
later I, watch other people and they're like, what are you doing? I was,
Oh.
I was roommates with Wesley Woods for a while. So I
yeah.
watched a lot of, cleanings.
But those enemas are specifically for medical reasons if you're doing anything
Of
with
course,
rectum and all
yeah.
that stuff. So it's extra important, but that's the standard model, I think,
Yeah.
that people where they learned a lot of that behavior. And since no one discusses this stuff,
Nobody,
like, where
yeah.
do you learn it other than now the internet? But before, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
my research was 10 years ago, but like, where do you learn this stuff?
Yeah, I didn't know.
I'm in like a squat position usually when I use an enema. like a
Really?
feet
See, I'm not
enema.
even in a squat position.
Is that bad?
Well,
Not bad.
There is no good or bad.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
just it depends on how far you're going and how deep you're going and what your intention is and what the positions are going to be. I think there's a lot of variables and nuance to these things, and your body really depends on what you ate, right? So
Right.
a big salad the day before isn't the way to go,
Yeah.
right? All of those things.
No
do
alcohol.
matter. There are a lot of things that actually can create a harder, more voluminous stool.
Fiber.
Right, like fiber, or
Yeah.
there's supplements as well that you can take that make kind of everything thicker and easier, that comes out in bigger clumps. Like
Yeah.
all of those things really do work, but it really depends on your intention and knowing your body. And the only way to do that is to try different things.
I have a question for you. So,
I might have an answer.
when I'm done cleaning and I know I've gotten a clean wash, I'm the same way as you. I still eat in the morning, so I can't not eat.
Yeah.
So, but I'll eat and then I'm sorry, I won't. I'll have a what's the green stuff called that makes you not poop? I have that first and then I eat my food. So it kind of like stops it.
Green stuff that makes you not poop?
Not poop.
Starts with an M. I want to say Mucinex. Not at
Metamucil?
all.
That makes
It's
you
like
poop.
no, not
Metamucil is
yeah.
fiber, right?
It is, yeah.
Psyllium husk.
But it's whatever stops it from
Oh, I don't know.
processing.
I'm actually not sure what.
I know about Imodium.
Imodium, that's what I'm thinking.
Imodium?
Yeah,
Imodium.
Imodium.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm thinking of. And I don't know why I said M, but Imodium is in
I
there.
don't know if that induces constipation per se.
But I do that, and that way I kind of, for me in my brain, it gives me like 8 hours of my food not processing.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Imodium.
Is it?
It's an antidiarrheal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to take it and
it
then
stops
have
things.
my food, and that way I'm like, well, I've got this amount of time where I'm not going to poop. And normally, right after set, I have to go home and
Interesting.
actually have my natural cleansing. So I'm
Right.
like, it seems to work for me in getting that few hours
Sure.
of camera time.
Yeah.
Most people aren't doing it for 8 hours.
Right.
So there's
right.
that.
Yeah.
Even though we should.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you should try it.
Right.
But we'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah.
instead.
True.
But it takes a really long time to digest food. So, like, if you're cleaned out
Mm-hmm.
now, it depends when the last time you ate was. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, how much of a difference it's going to make for a civilian or like a non-performer.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like a few hours after I eat, my food's like, we're ready, So I'm like, I'm
mean-
very regular.
But it wouldn't be a few hours, so it
No.
would be last night's meal.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So, like,
maybe.
most people, if they get sick right away, it's not what you just ate, typically.
Yeah. It's what you ate
unless
24
there's,
hours
like, an
ago.
infection, it's what you ate the night before. Like,
Interesting.
8 to 12 hours before
Yeah.
is usually where most bodies digest at the same speed.
Yeah.
Most.
Is 8 to 12 hours?
Yeah, for full
Really?
digestion, yeah. And so it really it depends. It just depends on a lot of variables. And it depends on what it was. Some things
Yeah.
are harder to digest, like
Yeah.
meats. They still digest within that same time frame. Some people digest a little bit slower, so it could take more than 12 hours. But there's not like a superhuman that I know of
Right.
that has digested in 4 hours. The body doesn't work that
Right.
way.
Yeah.
There's the processes, and it's very, very long if we're talking about the small intestines
Yeah.
to get through.
Maybe she is superhuman.
She
never
is
know.
in
I
so
am.
many ways.
am.
I don't know if
Yeah.
digestion
Yeah.
is
Got
the
it.
one.
Got it.
So what would you say, Adam, is like your biggest like tip or trick for the people with anal preparation?
As far as hygiene or as far as taking a big one?
I think all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two different.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely learned today that maybe I should incorporate some stretching
Yeah.
before I'm going to receive anal sex.
You're welcome, everyone.
yeah.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But as for the hygiene, I would say the most important thing to me is lube.
Yeah.
It's just be kinder to your butthole because it ages just as you do.
Yeah.
The skin gets thinner and blood vessels become sensitive and you just never know. Don't force anything in or out.
Yeah.
That's
Good
my
point.
big tip.
Yeah. Great tips.
Really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We stress lube on like all levels, always, and especially with anal sex because there are more it is easier to tear in the rectum.
We shouldn't have been doing the spit method when we were in our 20s, even though we all did.
Yeah.
Right? We shouldn't have been doing that. We really should have trained ourselves.
They still train people the spit method in porn. I mean,
the
that's
thing is,
still a thing.
I think it's just a fantasy, and it's just a silly one. You guys, spit fucking can be hot. It has been hot.
Yeah, it
I
also
have
be
done it.
painful.
But it can it more often than not is painful and not recommended.
How about we use lube? Right? There's
And then
actually
spit on
injectors
it.
that you can use to inject lube into the anus before you engage. Right? And so that one is an interesting one. We didn't really discuss.
I heard a tip. Oh, sorry.
No, go. Please,
I heard
go.
a tip from someone that I've never tried, and I am curious about it. That apparently they make little ice cubes made of coconut oil, and before they go out, they'll pop one in there, and that way it's like,
melted.
Melted and ready to go. That way, if things get moving quickly.
Interesting.
What do you think?
I mean, it makes
Gonna
sense.
buy stock.
It would melt very fast. And so
Should we try it and reconvene?
Yes.
empirical evidence, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
So yes, let's try and it makes sense, right? Because the little injections are like little, they're not syringes because they don't have a needle per se, but they're like the syringe piece.
Like the Jell-O shot syringes.
So you can inject lube inside.
Yeah.
And those work super duper well.
Yeah.
But you're very wet and very lubed. And so it depends. I would be curious to know if you're not really tight back there, or whatever the case may be. Like, do we have to take additional measures to protect our clothes and stuff like that? I would be very curious if you do that and then go out dancing. What that I think that could potentially create a mess. I think we should try it and then come back and see. But
I was also thinking that same thought, because I've left an anal scene, like I've shot in Vegas, and they are really quick to get you like. They're like, oh, okay, we stopped filming at 6:30. Your flight's at 7:40, so let's get you to the airport really quick. And it's like just rushing out of there, you know? So
and you're just leaking all over the place.
Yes, and I've left with a rectum full of juice, and it's wide open at this point. So here I am, like walking through the airport, and I'm just like, I'm like, oh my God.
I think that happens when you take any load, right? So if you take a load and leave it in there, this might be a little too graphic, but if it stays in there, it's going to find its way out.
It does, of course.
Even if you're just walking. So if you're doing something more adventurous, or if you're getting in and out of a car, I would imagine that those things could potentially be problems. So I would be hesitant. Instead, put it in my go bag and run into the bathroom and do it real quick.
Yeah, and I don't wear underwear, so that's, real tragedy.
Well, you should. You're going to take loads. Right?
Well, lesson
you're
learned.
Leave them in there.
Trust me, I learned a lot of lessons that day. But
well, you're wearing white pants today.
Yeah, well, I'm not taking any loads in my ass, so not today.
That you know of, not yet. The day is young.
Definitely.
Well, on that note, I think this was good. I feel like we got some good information out there. Definitely lube is your friend. Preparation goes a long way. Have your little goodie bag in your car, be a real pro and make sure that it's always ready to go. But I think this is I feel good about it.
I might be adding a butt plug to my goodie bag.
I think you
my
should.
go bag. Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to, the last thing I'd want to also add is maybe masturbation with anal play and solo anal masturbation.
Good point.
Could really give people an opportunity to explore that area without being concerned or so concerned, even though use a towel, all of those precautions still apply. But it might be helpful if we're talking about size, because some relationships, it becomes a problem if you're constantly waiting and waiting and waiting to try and get it in. It could be. There's lots of different things that could create potential issues in relationships, right? And so, prepping, I think, means more than just hygiene. It also means that you can take it, or that you know what you want at all, right? And so, anal masturbation can help with that.
My only suggestion to that is don't try like household products. Like get yourself some actual sex toys, or start with your fingers or things like that. Amazon sells sex toys and completely discreetly, so you don't even have to like go into a sex store if that's something that makes you so nervous. There is definitely ways to do it and try things safely. Don't go to the kitchen and grab the wooden spoon, please,
or the cucumber.
Right. Yes.
Is there a dildo of you yet? Is that
Ooh,
like a
is there?
thing?
No.
No?
I'm,
Okay.
Oh,
I'm
we're
not
gonna talk to
I'm
them.
not stacked enough for one of those. Although I did use one last night that looks just like mine.
nice.
And that was kind of exciting because it
Yeah.
felt like fucking myself.
Oh, we're gonna talk to Jock Johnson about that. We're gonna get you a mold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Folks.
The Adam Ramsey
That's
coming
right.
soon.
Yeah. Adam, while we're at it, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me at my Instagram is at PrinceJasmine_. My Twitter is Adam Ramzi _XO. And Ramsey is spelled with a Z-I, for those of you who don't know.
Beautiful. I know, because I always think everyone is watching it, but so many people just listen.
yeah.
So I'm really glad that you did that. So thank you. I feel good about it, Dr. Eddie. Feel
Yeah,
good?
absolutely. This
All
was
right.
great. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Until next time, adios.